He was basketball's teenage king. Then vanished. How does someone go from social media superstar to vanishing off the radar? Picture this: a high school kid slams down a jaw-dropping 360 dunk, and within minutes, the clip explodes across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. The internet crowns him the next big thing in basketball before he's even old enough to vote. That was Mikey Williams, a name that once echoed across gyms, sneaker ads, and highlight reels. He had charisma, raw athleticism, and a confidence that made even NBA players take notice. But somewhere between fame and future greatness, the fairy tale started to crumble. His rise was meteoric. His fall? Equally shocking. This is the story of how a teenage basketball prodigy went from the top of the world to the brink of losing it all, and what we can all learn from his journey. From YouTube dunks to overnight sensation. How does a teenager become a household name in minutes? The viral dunk that changed everything. Before scandals, before the silence, there was pure magic. A single dunk, explosive, fearless, and dripping with attitude, turned a young Mikey Williams into an overnight phenomenon. Coaches, fans, and brands all wanted a piece of him. He was just 14, but he played with the swagger of an NBA veteran. Scouts called him a once-in-a-generation talent. ESPN analysts compared him to legends before he'd even gotten his driver's license. In an era when highlights ruled the internet, Mikey wasn't just another talented player, he was content gold. Every game was a show. Every move was a clip waiting to go viral. The birth of a brand. Soon, Mikey wasn't just a player, he was a brand. He had sponsorships, shoe deals, and millions of followers. His Instagram looked like the dream life of every teenager: designer clothes, cars, celebrity friends. But behind the filters and flexing, the pressure was mounting. Every post had to be perfect. Every game, flawless. Every decision on or off the court became a headline. And that's where fame turns from fuel into fire. When expectations become a burden. When the world expects you to be perfect, who gets to just be human? The weight of the crown. Imagine being told, at 16, that you're the next LeBron. It sounds like a compliment until you realize how heavy that comparison is. Every missed shot suddenly feels like failure. Every bad game becomes proof you're not ready. For Mikey, the world's expectations were louder than his own thoughts. Cameras followed him everywhere: school gyms, training sessions, even vacations. Every moment was monetized, every move analyzed. The player versus the persona. There were two Mikey Williamses. Mikey the player, disciplined, determined, and passionate. Mikey the persona, loud, flashy, and designed for clicks. At some point, the lines blurred. The person became the product. When you start living for likes instead of love for the game, cracks begin to show. You start performing for an audience instead of playing for yourself. And that's when the story takes a turn. The first cracks, when fame turns fragile. The warning signs were there, but few wanted to see them. Academic and athletic tension. Success in sports often demands focus and balance: school, training, discipline. But when fame arrives early, that balance breaks. Travel schedules, interviews, sponsorship appearances, all while trying to stay eligible for school play. Mikey began missing practices. Teachers complained. Coaches whispered. It wasn't arrogance, it was exhaustion. The machine that made him famous also drained him. Public scrutiny begins. Once the media builds you up, it doesn't take much for them to turn. Suddenly, the same outlets that called him a prodigy started questioning his discipline, maturity, and choices. Rumors surfaced about his attitude, his circle, and his off-court lifestyle. For a teen still figuring out who he was, that kind of scrutiny can crush anyone. The first real setback. As his high school career progressed, Mikey bounced between schools and teams. Each move made headlines. Each change sparked speculation. It wasn't just about basketball anymore, it was about drama. And in today's media landscape, drama gets clicks faster than discipline. Little did anyone know, this was only the beginning of the fall. The fall, scandal, silence, and a shattered image. Fame gives, but it also takes. The legal trouble. Then came the moment that changed everything. Reports broke that Mikey had been arrested in connection with a serious incident allegedly involving a firearm outside his home. 9 felony charges. Up to 30 years in prison. Overnight, the boy wonder became the face of what went wrong. Fans were shocked. Sponsors distanced themselves. Teams stopped calling. The silence that followed was deafening. The emotional toll. Behind the headlines was a teenager facing the collapse of everything he'd built. Imagine going from constant attention to isolation, from applause to judgment, from millions of followers to people pretending they never supported you. Fame is intoxicating until it abandons you. And when it does, it leaves you empty. Those close to him said he grew quieter. The fire that once burned on the court dimmed. He seemed lost, unsure whether redemption was even possible. But the story didn't end there. Redemption, reflection, and the long road back. Falling down is inevitable. Staying down is optional. A chance at redemption. After months of silence, whispers of a comeback started surfacing. Mikey began training again, showing glimpses of the player the world once loved. His tone changed, less flashy, more grounded. In interviews and brief public appearances, he talked about learning from mistakes, understanding who he really was, and finding purpose beyond fame. It wasn't about proving people wrong anymore. It was about proving to himself that he could rise again. Rebuilding the foundation. Comebacks aren't built overnight. They require humility, patience, and a willingness to face the mirror. Mikey's journey toward redemption isn't just about basketball, it's about rebuilding trust, both with fans and with himself. It's about maturity, accountability, and self-awareness. Even if he never becomes the superstar he once seemed destined to be, his story can still inspire millions, not as a tale of perfection, but as a lesson in perseverance. Lessons from the rise and fall of Mikey Williams. Because his story isn't just about him, it's about all of us. Lesson 1: Your identity is more than your image. Mikey's biggest struggle wasn't the game, it was the image. The moment his worth depended on how others saw him, he lost sight of himself. Takeaway: don't measure your value through validation. Likes fade. Trends change. Your identity shouldn't. Lesson 2: Pressure without purpose cracks you. He had talent, but he also carried the weight of everyone's expectations: coaches, brands, fans, and critics. The pressure became noise that drowned his own passion. Takeaway: pressure can build diamonds, but only when there's balance. You need purpose to handle pressure, without it, you'll break. Lesson 3: Fame is a double-edged sword. Social media turned Mikey into a phenomenon. But it also magnified every flaw. One wrong step and the same audience that cheered for you can tear you down. Takeaway: use the spotlight wisely. Fame amplifies who you are, it doesn't change you. If your foundation isn't solid, the spotlight will expose the cracks. Lesson 4: Surround yourself with truth tellers. When you're young, rich, and famous, it's easy to be surrounded by yes people, those who agree with everything you do. But true friends tell you when you're wrong. Takeaway: build a circle that values your growth, not your glow. You need people who protect your future, not your image. Lesson 5: Redemption is always possible. No matter how bad things get, it's never truly over unless you stop trying. Every fall contains a chance to rise wiser. Takeaway: you are not your mistakes. You are your response to them. The bigger picture: a generation watching. Mikey's story isn't an isolated one, it's a warning wrapped in a mirror. We live in an age where attention equals currency. Teenagers are building brands before they build character. They chase fame before they understand its cost. Mikey's story is a modern parable, a reminder that fame without foundation leads to fragility. You can have all the talent in the world, but without discipline, humility, and guidance, it can all vanish overnight. Parents, coaches, and mentors need to see this as more than gossip. It's a wake-up call about how society treats young talent, pushing them into the spotlight before they're ready for its heat. The human behind the headline. When the noise fades, what's left is a person just like you. At the end of the day, Mikey Williams isn't a cautionary meme or a tragic headline. He's a human being who lived through the extremes of fame, pressure, and consequence. He's made mistakes, yes, but he's also grown, reflected, and sought change. And that's something we can all relate to. Because who hasn't fallen short of expectations? Who hasn't stumbled trying to figure life out? Maybe his story isn't about rise or fall. Maybe it's about rediscovery, learning who you are when the lights go out. The game isn't over yet. What if the fall was just a chapter, not the ending? Mikey Williams' journey is far from finished. Whether he makes a full comeback or chooses a new path, one thing is clear: his story resonates because it's real. It's about potential and pressure, triumph and trial, failure and forgiveness. It's about what happens when the dream you've been chasing catches you before you're ready. For every young dreamer reading this, athlete, creator, student, or entrepreneur, remember: fame is fleeting. Character is forever. Talent opens doors, but discipline keeps them open. And redemption? It's always waiting for those brave enough to seek it. If you've read this far, take a second to reflect. What part of Mikey's story hit home for you? Have you ever felt crushed by expectations, your own or others? What lesson from his journey can you apply in your own life today? Share your thoughts, drop your reflections, or start a conversation. Because this story isn't just about one athlete, it's about an entire generation learning to balance dreams with discipline, hype with humility, and success with self-awareness. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real victory.